Hi, welcome to Toon Table. I'm Shela, this is Nathan, and today we're going to teach you how to play Dinosaur Island.
Designed by Jonathan Gilmour and Brian Lewis and distributed by Pandasaurus Games, Dinosaur Island is a 2 to 4 player board game about the exciting world of theme park management. And also dinosaurs, I guess.
Dinosaur Island is a Euro game with a worker placement mechanic. You will play as one of 4 different humanitarian corporations, all racing to create the greatest dinosaur theme park. And, like so many dinosaur entrepreneurs before you, you will find yourself trying to balance park security with building bigger and better attractions than your opponents.
Let's get started. The main goal of Dinosaur Island is to collect victory points. At the end of the game, the player with the greatest total victory points wins.
There are 4 ways to collect victory points and 2 ways to lose them. At the end of each round, guests will visit your exhibits. You score a victory point for every happy patron who is able to visit an attraction and not get eaten. Building attractions or creating new dinosaurs will also give you victory points, depending on the value listed on each one. At the end of the game, you add up points for each of your attractions. For the dinosaurs, you'll multiply the points listed on each type of dinosaur by the number of dinosaurs in those exhibits. Another way to gain victory points is to complete in-game objectives. At the beginning of the game, your group will draw a certain number of objectives that can be completed. Everyone has the ability to complete an objective, but once an objective is scored, it cannot be scored again by another player after that round. If 2 players score an objective in the same round, they both get the points. Objectives are scored immediately upon completing them.
Objectives also serve as the game's timer. When there is 1 or less objective left unscored, the players finish up the current round and then proceed to the game end.
The last way to gain victory points is to have money left over at the end of the game. Once the game is over, any money that you haven't spent is converted into points. For every $5 you haven't spent, you get 1 victory point. In the case of a tie, the player with the most money is named the victor. Because capitalism. Finally, you can lose victory points in 2 ways. The first is having empty paddocks at the end of the game. You will lose 10 victory points for each paddock that does not contain at least 1 dinosaur. The second way to lose points is by dinosaurs eating your customers. At the end of every turn, if one of your dinosaurs escapes and eats a park visitor, you'll lose a victory point for each visitor eaten. Keep in mind that you are multi-million-dollar corporations, so you'll need to find a balance between park safety and profit to win this game.
After setting up the marketplace, research center, and track boards in the center of the table, each player should collect their pieces. Each player will need lab and park boards, 9 minimum wage, workers, 3 scientists, 5 corporation tokens, 10 marker cubes, matching the corporation color, 6 black limit cubes, and 1 big ol' dinosaur. Your workers and scientists should be placed to the side, as these are your worker and research pools, which we will go into later. The limit cubes show the max amount of each DNA you can store. You should place these cubes on space 4 of the basic DNA tracks, and on space 2 of the advanced DNA tracks. Then place marker cubes on space 1 of the basic DNA tracks and space 0 of the advanced DNA tracks. This marks your current DNA supply. Place your sole, solitary dinosaur into the available paddock in your park board. Dinosaurs are naturally exciting, so your park's excitement level should match that. Place a marker cube on the 1 spot of the excitement board to match the excitement number indicated by your dinosaur's paddock. Dinosaurs are also extremely dangerous, as in the scene where the T-Rex attacks in the popular movie franchise, The Land Before Time. So the more dinosaurs you have in your park, the more dangerous the park is. At the start of the game, you only have 1 dinosaur, so place a marker cube at the top of your threat track and another marker cube at the top of your security track, as you already have some measures in place to keep your park safe. The last marker cube you need to place is the victory point track. Every player starts off with 10 victory points at the start of the game.
After everyone has their boards and tokens set up, it's time to determine your dice pool and objectives. Have someone randomly draw 2 dice per player plus 1 additional die. Any leftover dice are put in the box and will not be used in this game. The chosen dice should be placed next to the research center board. Objective cards are separated into 3 categories depending on the game length. This can be found on the back of each card. The longer the game, the harder the objectives are to complete. When everyone agrees on a game length, draw cards from the appropriate deck equal to your player count and return all remaining objectives to the box. For your first game, it is recommended that you play a short game.
The final game piece to set up are the plot twists. These are elements added into the game that help prevent any 2 games of Dinosaur Island from feeling too similar. You do not need to play with the plot twists if you don't feel like it, but they do help to make each game more exciting. There are 11 different plot twists in total. Shuffle them together and draw 2 to play with for the game. Return the other plot twists to the game box.
The last thing you need to do before playing Dinosaur Island is to determine the player order and starting money. Whichever player most recently extracted DNA from a mosquito trapped in amber is given the first player token. If no player has done this, then first of all, What are you even doing with your life? Instead, the first player token is given to the player who has most recently visited a theme park. After figuring out who the first player is, set up the turn order track so that the order moves clockwise from the first player. The first player receives $15 in starting income, and everyone else receives $1 more than the previous player in the order. After everyone has their money, flip the top cards of the dinosaur DNA stacks and place the first set of lab upgrades, park upgrades, and specialists. It is time for the capitalist dino adventure to begin!
Dinosaur Island's turns are split into 5 phases: the research phase, the market phase, the worker phase, the park phase, and finally, the cleanup phase. In the first round of the game, the player with the first player token starts and the turn order proceeds clockwise from her. After the first turn order will change depending on a player's position on the score track.
At the start of this phase, the first player rolls all of the dice in the dice pool and places them in the available DNA slots at the top of the research board. In turn order, players can then choose to use their scientists to collect the DNA, increase their cold storage, obtain a dinosaur recipe, or pass. Players go around in order until they have taken all 3 actions. One thing you should note, though, is that each of the scientists is assigned a number, 1, 2, or 3. This represents how advanced the scientist is. These numbers also directly affect the actions you can take during the research phase.
The first action that you may wish to take is to research DNA. On each of the die faces, there are different symbols representing the different types of DNA. There are 2 types of DNA, advanced and basic. You will need different combinations of this DNA to build your dinosaurs. When you place a scientist here, you multiply the type of symbols by the scientist's level and gain that much DNA in your cold storage up to, but not exceeding, your limit. Only 1 scientist can be placed in any slot under the dice. If there is already a scientist there, that DNA die is no longer available to be researched. There are sometimes pips on the dice. These represent random dangers that might occur at the end of the round. If any dice with pips are left unchosen, the danger level is increased by the highest number of pips on a die this turn.
Another action you can take is to increase cold storage. This is done by placing a scientist in one of the 6 slots in the increase cold storage section of the research center board. When you do this, you can increase any combination of your cold storage limits by the number on the scientist. For example, if you place a 2 scientist here, you can increase 1 cold storage limit by 2, or 2 cold storage limits by 1.
The next action that you can take is to procure a dino recipe. Each type of dinosaur has a specified scientist level next to it, which means that in order to obtain that type of dinosaur, you have to place a scientist of equal or greater level in that slot to get the dino recipe. There are 3 types of dinosaurs: herbivores, small carnivores, and large carnivores. The more dangerous dinosaurs require a higher level scientist to research and have a higher threat level and excitement value. Once you procure a recipe, take that dinosaur and place it and its paddock anywhere that it can fit in your park. Keep in mind dinosaurs take up 2 zones, and pieces once placed cannot be moved. If there is no room in your park for a dinosaur, you cannot have any more recipes. Remember that at the end of the game, you lose 10 victory points for each paddock that has no dinosaurs in it. People expect dinosaurs in their dinosaur park.
Instead of choosing to spend a scientist on any of the other actions, you may instead choose to pass. When you do this, you may take any one of your unspent scientists and move them into your worker pool. For this round, that scientist will act as an extra worker during the worker phase.
After everyone has taken 3 actions in the research phase, they then move on to the market phase. In the market phase, you use your money to purchase upgrades for your park. These can include buying new attractions, upgrading your lab, hiring new specialized staff, or purchasing DNA. Each player goes around in turn order purchasing these upgrades until each player has taken 2 actions.
What kind of capitalist juggernaut would you be if you didn't build entire amusements to the biological defiances of nature that you've constructed? Building attractions is one of the ways to ensure that you get as many victory points as possible. Not only do they give you a set amount of points at the end of the game, but they also act as attractions that guests can visit during the park phase to give you more victory points each round. You want to capitalize as much as possible on the hype of dinosaurs, just like the successful entrepreneur from the famous Steven Spielberg movie, We Are Back, A Dinosaur Story.
To purchase an attraction, you must pay its market price. The market price of any given upgrade is the cost listed on the upgrade, if any, plus the cost listed on the row the upgrade is in. If the attraction you want to buy is $4 and it's on the $4 row, the total price the player must pay is $8. After you purchase the attraction, simply place it in any available spot in the park. If there are no available spaces in the park, you cannot build any more attractions. Once an attraction is built, it cannot be moved.
Lab upgrades provide unique jobs for your workers to perform during the worker phase. After you pay the market price for the upgrade, place it in one of the 4 bottom lab upgrade spots. You may replace an existing lab upgrade with a new one, but any upgrades replaced this way cannot be used anymore. The top 2 spots may only be upgraded for their corresponding special lab upgrade found at the $3 and $5 market rows.
Specialists, like lab upgrades, also give you unique abilities and bonuses. When you hire a specialist, you pay their market row cost and place them on the side of your board. You immediately gain any effects listed on their card. Some specialists give you extra workers or reduce costs. You are allowed to have up to 3 specialists unless a plot twist or card says otherwise. If you would ever purchase more than the maximum number of specialists, you must fire one of the specialists and replace them with the new one. If you fire a specialist, you immediately lose any ability or bonus on their card.
You may also choose to buy DNA from the marketplace. DNA is always useful as it builds, well, the dinosaurs. Instead of buying any of the other upgrades, you can instead choose to spend the cost on the market row to purchase any combination of the DNA shown. After you do this, you must also discard an upgrade from that same row, not including the special lab upgrades.
Like in the previous phase, you may also pass your turn. If you do this, you collect $2 from the bank. You may do this each turn.
From this phase on, turn order doesn't matter. During the worker phase, you assign your workers, or unused scientists, to different jobs on your lab board. The different lab upgrades and stations have slots for your workers. Most jobs only require a single worker, but slots like this indicate that multiple workers need to be placed here to perform this job. Like in the other phases, most slots can only be used once. The only time that this is not the case is if the slot has the word unlimited printed on it. If it does, you may perform this action with as many workers as you wish.
There are multiple types of lab upgrades that can allow your workers to perform different actions, but there are a handful of lab stations that you start the game with. The DNA Refinement Lab Station allows you to spend a combination of basic DNA shown to purchase a single advanced DNA. Advanced DNA is harder to obtain and is needed to create larger and more exciting dinosaurs, so this upgrade helps you do that more easily.
The Dino Research Lab Station gives you the ability to create a dinosaur for your park using one of your dinosaur recipes. Simply place a worker here and spend the required amount of DNA as indicated by your recipe to create a dinosaur. After you build your dinosaur, increase your park excitement level by the number indicated on the green triangle, then increase your threat level by the number of purple dots on the recipe.
The Tool Bench Lab Station has 2 different actions that you can choose to do. You can either upgrade a paddock's capacity or increase security. In order to create a dinosaur, you must have room in your dinosaur paddock. All recipes start with a paddock that can hold 1 dinosaur, but in order to have more dinosaurs, you must upgrade your paddock capacity. To do this, place a worker in the Tool Bench Lab upgrade and find the next paddock size up of the one you want to upgrade. Pay its cost and place it over the base one on the recipe. A paddock can be upgraded to hold a maximum of 4 dinosaurs.
It's also important to remember that dinosaurs are dangerous and eat people like the Velociraptor does in the classic movie, The Velocipaster. To help mitigate this, you are also able to increase your security level to deal with your pesky lethal assets. When you place a worker in the tool bench, you can choose to increase your safety measures by paying the cost listed in each section of the security level track. For example, if you want to increase your security level to 5, you must pay $3. If you would increase your security level beyond 10, simply take the plus 10 modifier token, or plus 20 if you are actually concerned for your customers, and place it at the bottom of the track. Then place your token back at the top. Any upgrade of security past 10 will cost $5. If the threat level ever reaches higher than your security, guests will be eaten, so be careful. Nobody wants a pesky lawsuit holding up your nice deadly theme park.
The last action you can do at the start is to collect money from the bank. Simply place a worker in one of the money slots shown on the lab station and you will get money equal to the value listed on that slot.
Different lab upgrades will have different actions that workers can do. Any ability that has a green background is a passive ability. This means that the ability only happens once and you cannot place workers here to do it again.
Your park is now open to the public. In turn order, pass around the visitor bag. Each player pulls out a handful of visitors equal to their park's current excitement level. The more excitement you have, the more visitors you get. After you draw all your visitors, place them at the entrance to the park.
There are 2 types of visitors in Dinosaur Island. The first are yellow visitors. These are good, God-fearing patrons who spend their money responsibly and help support your capitalist machine. These patrons are worth victory points and money. You get $1 for each patron that comes into your park, and you'll get 1 victory point for each patron that is able to visit an attraction at your park. But you have to be careful not to draw pink visitors. Pink visitors are known in the game as hooligans, or as I like to call them, teenagers. These menaces to our good capitalist institutions hate our perfectly legal practices of defying nature and creating people-eating monstrosities for child entertainment, and sneak into the park without paying. Pink visitors do not earn you any money or victory points and must be placed at attractions first.
After you collect your visitors, simply place them in different attraction slots around the board, starting with the hooligans first. Only 1 visitor can be placed in any spot, so if there are not enough slots for all your visitors, the rest remain in line, like at any big theme park, and do not give you victory points. You may only place a number of visitors on a dinosaur attraction equal to the number of dinosaurs in the attraction. Every person wants their own personal dinosaur to look at and will not settle for less.
After this is done, dinosaurs get loose and kill your unsuspecting patrons, as they're wont to do. To determine how many patrons die, add the number of dots from the unpurchased die that has the highest number of dots to the threat level of your park. If your security level is higher than your new total, nothing happens. However, if your security level is less than the threat level, then the dinosaurs escape and eat a number of visitors equal to the difference between your security level and your current threat level.
When this happens, take a number of visitors off the board equal to the amount of people eaten. Patrons are always removed before hooligans, and if you have no more guests in the park, you also remove visitors from the line until you have met the required number of deaths. For each visitor killed, you subtract 1 victory point.
Once the dinosaurs have gotten loose and you've determined the casualties, give yourself victory points for every remaining patron who is still at an attraction in the park. If the attraction is a food attraction, you may collect $2 instead of scoring 1 victory point. These victory points are immediately added to your score.
The final phase of the game is cleanup. First, reset the turn order. The player with the fewest victory points now becomes the first player, and the player with the second lowest victory points becomes the second player, and so on and so forth. If 2 players are tied, they remain in the same order relative to each other.
Reveal the top recipe of each stack by flipping the next card face up. If the top of the stack is already face up, nothing happens.
Next, refresh the market. Remove any items left in the $2 market row, and then slide all the remaining items up a row. Any empty slots left are filled from their corresponding stacks. Now remove all visitors from the board and place them back into their bag. Return all the scientists and workers back to their starting spots.
Resolve any plot twists that have an ability that happens at the end of the round. Finally, if there is more than 1 objective left, start from phase 1 again and repeat until the game end is triggered.
Game end is triggered when there is only 1 objective left unscored. If this happens, players finish up the round, then proceed to the game end. At game end, you score victory points for each attraction's listed victory points. Then you multiply the victory point value for each dinosaur by the amount of dinosaurs in that paddock and add it to your total. Next, you add up all of your remaining money and score 1 point for every $5 you have. Finally, you tally up the victory points of every objective that you scored. Once everyone is done calculating their score, the player with the most victory points is deemed the winner.
This game has 2 alternate rules for different levels of play. As part of the game setup, you can choose to forgo plot twists to create a more approachable game for new players. This allows you to play the game without needing to explain the major rule variances that plot twists entail. The other alternate game format has you roll 1 of the unused DNA dice every round. Instead of using the highest unpurchased die to calculate the threat level, you'll use this other die to determine the danger level for that round. This makes the game more unpredictable and keeps you on your toes.
And that's how you play Dinosaur Island.
This game is a perfect combination of fantastic theming and a unique art style that makes it an ideal choice for gaming newbies who want to try more complex games. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it and subscribe to Toon Table, and also be sure to ring that bell to be notified when the next rules explanation is posted. Thank you so much for watching, and have fun gaming, Toons!
You know what this game reminds me of? Dinosaur, the old Disney movie.
Oh yeah, I loved that movie. This is just like that.
Oh, it's also kinda like Jurassic Park.